Hey guys, welcome to our first webinar in a while. My name is Prince Huang and I'm here with Jeff Johnstone. And today we're going to show you Project One, just a quick overview along with Cloud AI integration. So before I begin, let me just introduce myself. Again, my name is Prince Huang. I am the Director of Product Management here at TechExcel. And then I have Jeff Johnstone. He's the Director of Sales for our team. So welcome everybody. Okay, so to get started, just gonna do a quick overview, about 10 minutes of Project One, and then Jeff will take over and show you guys a little bit of the Cloud AI and how it integrates with Project One to provide AI capability. So inside Project One, when we log in, we're gonna see a list of different projects. I have here just some sample projects that I'm using, but this is where you'll access all your projects. It is an ALM solution, so the entire life cycle of software development or manufacturing hardware. So it could be any type of projects as well. So to get started, we would hit the new project here. We'll give it a project name. And then just to show you, I'm not really going to create this, but just to show you how this works. So when we create a project, because it is an ALM solution, you get to pick and choose which modules you want to enable. So the entire traceability from requirements down to testing, if you like to do that for your project, you can just enable that, and then you're good to go. So in my case, I have this project here, and I do have all those modules enabled. So from requirements all the way down to testing. So in my requirements, I would formally, set up maybe group my requirements and my specifications by different components. So here I just got a list of sample components, and this is how I group my, this is how I'll be grouping my specifications. So in this folder right here, on the right-hand side, will be a list of my specifications for that component, and if I switch folders or any category, I will have additional sets. And when I look at my specifications, we're going to have some key items here. So since this is full traceability, it is tied to test cases and it's tied to implementation tasks. You'll be able to link everything. So when we look at a spec here, we can click on the ID just to open it up. This form is completely customizable, so we get to add any field we like into it. We get to do attachments. We get to put descriptions. Basically, place any kind of field of your choice onto this form. There's going to be different versioning that we can do against the requirement. So we can update requirements. We can capture snapshots of what it is prior to us changing it to or modifying this requirement where it becomes a new version. We do have a history, so everything you're doing inside a requirement gets timestamped. And then there is, these guys, the relationship map, and then the all links, which will show us the entire traceability of a requirement. So clicking on the all links first, this just shows us that we do have some test cases that are linked to the requirement. And then we also have some development tasks that need to be completed in order to complete the requirement as well. The relationship map basically gives me a visual way of seeing how this requirement is linked to other requirements. So it's a visual way of seeing the relationships between requirements and specifications. Okay, up on the top, we do have different statuses. So we could build a workflow. So here's an example workflow that I have for a requirement. So it's a basic waterfall workflow where requirements come in, it gets committed, we send it over to development to implement it, and then we finally do some testing, and then we release it. Okay, so these are the buttons that take us, or the actions that will take us to different statuses and whatnot. In addition to categorizing the requirements by categories, we do have something called road mapping. So when I click on this here, this root folder here, I'm going to go ahead and insert what we call roadmap months. So these guys right here could be different timeframes. They don't necessarily have to be months, but the idea is to give you another view in which you can look at your requirements. So instead of looking at these guys by different components and whatnot, what I'm going to do is I will take a set of requirements, maybe these guys here, and then I'll plan for them by dragging and dropping into a time frame. So again, they could be quarters, they could be every 6 months, every month, what have you. So you can define this, but the idea is to plan out or commit these requirements into a time frame. Okay, so basically two views within the requirements module. When I click on this October one, I do have some items there. I have 8 items, and I'm essentially taking some items from component A and then maybe a few from component B, and I'm just dragging and dropping into that roadmap. All right, so then when I click on that, then this will be a list of everything I committed for this time period. All right, so coming back into the requirement itself, there's some additional key items here, and you'll probably notice right away that there's a nice percent finish here. This percent finish is basically an indicator of how we're doing against this requirement without looking at the details beneath. So the details being the tasks that are created for these requirements, as well as some of the testing that we need to do. So all your efforts are basically rolled up into a requirement. So for me as a product owner, I come into the system. I'm not necessarily coming into the details of the testing or development. I'm simply just looking at my percent finish. And if I see everything to be 100% for this committed time period, then I know that I'm doing everything on time. Okay, so now how do we actually generate some of these tests and tasks for this requirement? So I've added a column called stories and tasks here. And so what we'll do is we will take a requirement, we click on this column, and then we're essentially adding tasks underneath it. So these are children tasks that need to be completed in order to complete this requirement. So the task can be segregated by these different modules. So this is all customizable. So you can add anything you want here. So I have Android, just meaning that this requirement is for Android and we need to implement it there. We could do another one. We can add iOS, and then we can put an estimate on how long we think it's going to take to implement this. And then when I do that, then I can start creating tasks underneath it. So if I check out this guy right here, then I can create as many tasks as I feel that are needed to complete this. So some of the examples for these tasks might be the actual development work, the actual implementation. Maybe we do some documentation and whatnot. So the key thing is keep the task workflow simple, and then just assign ownership to these. And then as we're completing this, by either putting in points or maybe putting in the time remaining and the time spent, then we essentially get a percentage of completion for each one of these child items. And again, they roll up to the very top of where the requirement is. So this one has already been assigned, and if I hover over this percent finish, we can see that it's completed actually today on Thursday. Okay, so these other ones right here, we haven't started anything on it yet. This one's about 50% done, but essentially you can hover over, you can kind of see when these tasks were implemented, and you can actually forecast on when things are going to be completed as well. So there is a date field that we can use to move forward, in which this bar will dynamically display the percent finish. One other thing too is if I click on these tasks here, you'll notice that I do have an owner here, so I'm assigning this to Bill, and then also I'm assigning it to a sprint. Okay, so these tasks are actually not sitting inside the requirements, but sitting over in the development module. So inside my development module, I do have the same project, of course, right? And I could create different releases, so it's optional. But essentially, the left folder tree here will represent, again, smaller sets of time. So in this case, I have a sprint that's defined for this week, and those tasks that I've actually created in my requirements module are seen here. So in this task board, I can change this to be a traditional task board where I'm looking at it from a status point of view. But in this case, Project One is a little bit different in the fact that we're not only able to do that, but also transform this into more of a calendar view. So again, this sprint is 1 week. So I have a row worth of 1 week's worth of days here. And then I get to pick and choose, as a developer, I get to pick and choose which day I want to complete these tasks by. Okay, so as I'm moving things around and I'm adding in time, then this data gets rolled up into the requirements module. So not going to show too much more here, but it is a task board. We're keeping track of implementation tasks for those requirements, as well as defects that may come from your testing. Okay, so moving on, let's go into the test case module. The test case module is essentially your test library. And within this test library, I'm going to have a very similar structure as my requirements. The reason I do something like this is because of the fact that when I create test cases, I'm able to create them directly from requirements. Okay, so this really essentially mimics my requirements categorization. So again, I have my different components, and then I have my different test cases, these 5 test cases that came over from the requirements. When I look at a test case, some of these key fields, like the title, maybe the test procedure, are mapped to some of the requirement fields because they are linked. So in addition, we can do attachments here. We can verify each of the steps. And then more importantly, we have something called environment variables. So for every single test case we have, we get to say which configurations of environments that this test is applicable for. So in this case right here, when I'm looking at platform, I'm saying that this test case can be used whenever we decide to test Android, iOS, Mac, or Windows. Okay, so you get to create as many as you need here. So you're basically having a single test case for all of these different environments. Moving over to the test run. So in the test run, this is where we're actually planning and executing the tests. So I pre-created some of these releases here just to kind of show you. So a release is really just a test plan of where you're trying to test within this within this release or this test plan. So when I look at it, I'm looking at the coverage here, I can tell that I'm testing against different languages as well as different platforms. So we call this a fixed grid only because in this test cycle right here up on the top, this is pretty static. So we're always testing, all these test cases in the middle, and then we're testing a combination of these different browsers, platforms, and languages. Right, so we hover over on the right-hand side, you can see it's going to be a combination of all those different choices. The grid here is visual, so this is a new thing that we did inside Project One. So instead of your traditional list view, you do get this nice grid where you can easily see how you're doing against any test cycle. So for test leads, test managers, etc., we can easily tell that this test cycle is doing very well. Everything has, more or less passed. We do have some outstanding items where we haven't tested yet, and then there are a couple defects that are displayed in red. Okay, so that's just kind of how the grid looks like. For a tester, they can just simply click on pass or fail, and then that'll give us the results here. And then, of course, as you're completing these tests, you do get that nice % finish that gets rolled up back into the requirements. Okay, so looking just a few more test cycles, this is a smaller one where we have 5 different test cases. Looking at this test plan, it is going to be a little bit different than the one I just showed you, because I call it dynamic, because when we're looking at this grid here, it's not a flat list up on the top, a flat row of different environments. So inside Project One, you get to pick and choose dynamically which variables you want, which environments you want to test. So in this case right here, the first set that I have here would be the Android platform against different languages. And then the next set might be, iOS, software version as well as language. So you can keep adding as many columns as you need, as many variables anywhere, very much like what you can do in Microsoft Excel. So this is a horizontal grid. I could add a y-axis to this too to make it even more dynamic, where it becomes a nice matrix. Okay, so I think that's it for me. This is just a quick overview. I would like to mention that we would be doing another webinar soon where we're covering more details of the entire product from Project One. So Jeff, I'm going to pass it over to you, and then if you can talk to us a little bit about the Cloud AI. Thank you.
I am Jeff Johnstone. I'm with Cloud Corporation, and if you have not heard of us before, our focus is on improving how people interact with documents, and we have a different approaches on that. LiveDocs is sort of the foundation of everything we do. It's a document format that lets us have a little more power on the collaboration side, and it sort of powers the AI piece as well. We have a meeting component. LiveSync is the sales and customer service piece, but today the focus is on the Cloud AI, and specifically the AI as it's been integrated into Project One. So this will be a very high-level webinar today. We'll have another webinar in a couple of weeks that'll dive a lot deeper into the AI features and other cloud components, architecture, API, etc. But I want to really dive into the API solution today. This will be pretty high level. I'll still try and get you out of here by the end of the half hour. So the AI plug into Project One is based on our LiveDoc technology, and it also leverages ChatGPT and Llama 2 and a couple other large language models. And really what the benefits of this integration are is it helps with the interaction of documents. In this case, the document is the requirements. It can help in the writing and understanding of those documents. It can help answer detailed questions about the requirements, itemize and identify the key features, and create and generate new test cases from those requirements, and just help everybody better understand, what the requirements are for, how they work, improve the coding and the testing and everything else. So let me dive into the demo here. So this is going to be based on a requirements document that I have. Pretty generic. It's an 8-page document, a bunch of diagrams and database fields and architecture. Now the architect probably finds this document completely intuitive and self-explanatory and doesn't feel that anybody should have any questions. But I think we all know that that isn't always the case, that the architects are very good at designing systems. They may not be as good at communicating some of the details or the overall meaning or focus of these. So let's see how this looks within Project One. So this is the same project Prince was just showing, and I'm looking at a requirement here in the requirements view called the Global Master Site, and I've already uploaded that exact same requirements document into this record. Now, the description here, the architect could try and write something and figure out how to explain this 8-page document in a short paragraph, but that's exactly what Cloud AI can help with. And we have this Ask Bot. And essentially, this lets you ask any question of that document. And we even make it easy by creating some common questions up here, and I'll show you how I can write my own down below. I'm just going to ask this to create a summary of this requirement. And it'll think for a second and work its magic and analyze the document. And in a moment here, we're going to have a very nicely written paragraph that correctly summarizes this 8-page requirement. Probably better written than most of us could write, unfortunately, but very surprisingly accurate. So this is now a great summary, and I can check in the results and just say, I want to update the requirement with this new text. And by doing that, and if let me expand this real quick, and actually need to submit this, and I will come back and do a quick update. You can now see that this record has the description written by our Cloud AI Ask Bot to be much better than the architect might have been able to write that. So his job is done. And now we move on to development, and the developers have to read this requirement and figure out how to organize the features and implement everything within here. So a developer might come in and ask the Ask Bot a couple questions. One, I read the summary, but I'm confused. I just graduated, from MIT last month, and I'm not sure what all these things mean. So I'm just going to ask, what is a foreign key? I'm sorry, foreign token, which was referred to in that summary. I'm kind of confused what exactly that means. So now the Ask Bot is going to answer my question in the context of that requirements document. This is not just some generic search on Google or using ChatGPT on a public site. This is analyzing this particular requirement document and answering my questions. I might further explore and say, what is a foreign user? And again, the chatbot will interpret the document and answer my questions. So this is going to save a ton of time of having meetings and conversations and trying to get a hold of the architect and asking simple questions. You can actually interact with and have a conversation with the document to help you understand. Now, clearly, you can always go back and have the face-to-face meeting. That's a given. But this is going to take a lot of burden off of that. So now that I'm a developer and I say, okay, now I understand what he's talking about, how do I really figure out what those top features are? So I can now ask the chatbot to list the top 3 features. And our Cloud AI bot is now going to, again, very quickly interpret that document, pull out the most important features, itemize them, and summarize them. So now I have a very good sense, okay, I need to create these as tasks in my development module to begin implementing. The current integration that we're showing today is focused on the test cases, but in a upcoming release, we'll be able to automatically generate the tasks directly from this list of features here. And if I go into the check results page, you can now see that the features list includes the features that the chatbot just created. So now I'm a QA person, and the developers are out developing. They've created their development tasks, but how do I test this? So, maybe I'll say write top test cases. So I'm not specifically asking for a given requirement. I'm just saying, what are the most important things to test in this requirement? Now, I could have said the top 2 test cases or 3 or 5. I forgot to put a 3 in there, so it's going to probably give me 5 or 6 before it's done. But this is sort of across the entire requirements document, analyzing it. How do you test each of these key components? Now, an important thing here is that we've designed this not just to give you, a text response, but the Cloud AI engine knows what a test record is. It knows what a feature is. And if I go back to check in the results, now it says there are new test cases that I want to check in. And if I go ahead and commit that, I'm just going to go ahead and create new test cases here. If I commit that, now if I come back, I'm going to do a quick refresh of that same record. Let me expand it here. If I go to the all links page, now you see there are 5 test cases that have been created. So the idea is to not only enhance understanding and communication of these documents and requirements, but to vastly streamline the development and QA process. These are not going to be 100% perfect test cases immediately, but it's going to be a tremendous head start in terms of just creating that library and knowing exactly what you have to do. Something else you could do, that last query was just, give me some test cases. If you really want to dive into a specific feature, for example, a global user ID, you could ask it to write 3 test cases for a global user ID. So now it's going to focus on that one particular feature and only give me 3. I could have asked for 20 if I wanted to, but I don't want to in this demo. So again, the idea is the document becomes extremely interactive. You can actually have conversations and ask questions of the document. And that's really the essence of what Cloud as a company is all about, is making documents interactive, intelligent, AI enabled. And, this use case is focused on ALM and traceability and requirements and testing, but there are many other use cases and applications for the cloud technology. But this is a very relevant one today, and will vastly streamline the entire process of understanding and developing and testing requirements. So, despite my audio issues, I have hit the bottom of the hour on time. And I do want to go back and just remind you that we will be having another webinar in 2 weeks, which will be a deep dive. We'll talk about more of the ALM features. In addition to just the AI, we'll dive into live docs and meetings. We'll talk more about how we've done this, the architecture, technology, and also the API, how this can be integrated into your own systems if need be, and some future roadmap items as well. So that is what I have today. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for bearing with me during my microphone hiccups. We will be in touch with you again with a registration for the next deep dive webinar. And if you have any questions, please contact Cloud or TechExcel, and we'd be happy to show you a one-on-one demo. We could even upload your requirements documents into our engine and show you how this works pretty much out of the box with almost any document. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.